What is good and what is up, y'all? It's your boy here, Jay, back and better than ever with another episode of Thunder Banter in the new year of 2026 as the Thunder come out on top for their fourth straight victory against the Golden State Warriors in Golden State, 131-94, and now look to face the Phoenix Suns to cap off the week. But after stumbling a couple times since the last time we talked, the Spurs have had our number, so let's get right into it all on this episode in the big 2026 of Thunder Banter right here. Happy New Year, y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Thunder Banter. Man, can't believe that 2025 is over, but we are here in 2026 as the new year is here, and I hope you guys had a happy holidays and everything great with family. No drama. But at the end of the day, guys, we got so much to talk about because we have not talked about this Thunder team in the past couple of weeks, and I want to go ahead and get into a couple things because we have stumbled a little bit, quote unquote, right? Still the best team in basketball with a 30-4 record, but had lost a couple games to the Spurs, who have our number this season and are 0-3 versus the Spurs this season. So let's get right into it in this big 2026, January 2nd right here. Cannot believe it. We're here, y'all. But let's get right into it. Welcome back to another episode of Thunder Banter. Thunder go ahead and win their fifth straight and beat the Warriors for the third time this season versus the Warriors, 131-94 in San Francisco with no Dray, Steph, or Jimmy for the Warriors. Golden State Warriors, worst loss of the season, worst shooting night of the season, and fewest points scored. So just ultimately the worst game of the season for the Warriors. And like I said, they didn't have Dre, they didn't have Jimmy, and they didn't have Steph. So that's obviously the three big pieces that they need to have on the court, but still complete domination by the Thunder after they led only by 2 at one point in the second quarter. But the Thunder went on a second quarter run going ahead, and Shea, 31-7, now 106 games with 20 plus points. Just insane. Just insane. We need to continue to witness and continue to appreciate, that's what I'm saying, the history that is going on right in front of our eyes, right? Not just, as an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, but as fans of the NBA and fans of basketball, we are seeing greatness right before our eyes, and we need to understand that only other person that has done this in the history of the game has been Wilt Chamberlain. So 106 straight games for Shea with 20 plus points, just absolutely unreal. Not to mention that he was also named the SI Sports Player of the Year, the first NBA player to be named that award or on the cover of their magazine since Steph Curry, I believe, in 2016. So big time props to Shea, first Canadian-born player to be doing that as well. But let's get back to the game. OKC, 4 players in double figures. Chet, absolutely crazy game. This is what we love to see from Chet, right? We honestly know that he's going to block shots, but 15, 15, and 4, and then, of course, the 4 block shots, just unreal. Can't say enough about it, as Dub had 12, 6, and 2, still getting acclimated. I'm still waiting for that Dub game, you know what I'm saying? In another fourth quarter, sat by SGA to let the young guns play. Carlson, fantastic game. Absolutely stud on our bench. 15, 11, and 2 off the bench. Absolutely great, versatile, and quick big man that I think is going to be a big pivotal piece going forward in the coming years. And hopefully we don't ship him off to anywhere else because he is an absolute stud and very, very aggressive at the rim. What I love to see. But every player for OKC was in positive plus or minus, as the Golden State Warriors, Moody and Pods, led the chase, but couldn't get much going with 36% from the field and 13 for 44 from 3 with 16 turnovers and also 74% from the free throw line. Just not going to get it done. But the Thunder get the dub, and this dub continues to propel us in the right direction. 4 straight wins, continue to the defensive efficiency, and also continue to get, fresh legs out there, right? I love that we're getting AJ Mitchell acclimated in a lot more minutes, as well as our bench. I know that we've obviously played our bench a lot this season, but our bench is starting to get, and I want to see Lou starting to hit more shots, and that's exactly what he's doing in this game. He hit a couple clutch threes, that 3 right before halftime as well, so that's great to see. But like I said, guys, we've been stumbling a little bit against a couple teams, so let's get right into that. Obviously, this was this game tonight, but let's get into the prior games that we have missed before we got into tonight. Like I said, the Thunder have been stumbling just a tad since we have last chatted, started playing 8 games prior to this game tonight and are 5-3 in those 8 games, losing 2 more to the Spurs after losing in the in-season tournament and losing to the Timberwolves, another familiar opponent. That said, the Thunder have still been playing fantastic basketball, as they will have everybody's best shot, right? We understand that because of the fact that we went ahead and won a ring, but it's a given every year that the reigning champs are going to get a tough effort from every team, at least early in the season, or early in the game, rather. Thunder have pulled out some close ones and pulled close ones away, but all in all, the road to continue to be great matchups, especially versus the Spurs, guys. I mean, the Spurs team has had our number the entire season and continues to have our number, and we'll see if they will actually be right there with us in the end of it. Who knows if that's going to be the conference championship matchup, as the Spurs and the Timberwolves, for that matter, catch the Thunder lacking at times. Get into this last 8 games of the schedule, beating the Clippers to start that game that we had, following that podcast that we went ahead and talked about the in-season tournament loss. Clippers were our next matchup, so we went ahead and beat the Clippers in a good game, 122-101, but Shea 32-7-6 in a decent effort by the Clippers on the road. But the third quarter for the Thunder mattered, with Chet, Dub, Mitchell, and Joe in double figures as well. And not to mention the fact that the Clippers are actually going berserk lately. Not really berserk, more so Kawhi Leonard, averaging 40 points a game. I mean, obviously this is a Thunder Banter show, but I want to go ahead and point out that Kawhi Leonard is going absolutely insane right now, and who knows if they are going to be back into the playoff picture after such an abysmal start. Then the next game, the Thunder ran into the Prince-colored jersey ant-led Timberwolves. Yes, they had, because Prince is from Minnesota, they have Prince-colored, themed jerseys in a purple night. And they went ahead and won in those jerseys, and they're honestly pretty sick. But Ant-Man hit a clutch step-back 3 late in the game, only down by 1, and managed to sneak away with a win at home, 112-107. Ant 26-12-3 with Shea, no slouch, 35-5-7. Only 3 players in positive plus or minus for the Thunder, as the Timberwolves had 5 players in double figures, and Timberwolves had 18 offensive rebounds. Just not acceptable. 18 offensive rebounds, that's not going to cut it, right? We need to continue to limit that. We need to honestly manage that. In this Warriors game as well, they had a ton of offensive rebounds, so we need to, second chance points is a big thing later on in the season. Right now, because we are so efficient, it's not necessarily a big deal, but when the games are closer, those offensive rebounds are going to matter a lot more. The next game, the Thunder bounced back versus Memphis, 119-103, with no Ja and OKC, no Chet, as Shea had 31-10-8 with 4 starters and 6 players in double figures, as Dub had 24-6-2. Then, because back-to-back games versus the Spurs in 3 days, the Spurs handed the Thunder 2 losses, both on national television and one on Christmas Day, guys. Kind of ruined my Christmas, not really, because I still got the Shea shoes. I know you see them peeping in the back, and I also got the Shea jersey, so it wasn't too bad of a Christmas, even though we did take the L versus the Spurs and Wemby. But the Spurs have the Thunder's number now, winning all 3 matchups versus the Thunder, with one more matchup late in the season. But Wemby had a day both games in a 130-110 win 2 days before Christmas, and their 117-102 win on Christmas off the bench. Both times Wemby had a game. In game 1, 12-5-3, and in game 2 had 19-11-2 on Christmas. I mean, off the bench, he is right now extremely efficient. I'm not saying that you should consider him coming off the bench, but it's crazy what he's doing off the bench, guys. It's honestly crazy. Shea 33-3-8 in game 1, and on Christmas had 22-6-4, while De'Aaron Fox had 29-4-3 on Christmas Day. Absolutely insane game by De'Aaron after having an 8-point performance the game prior. But these games, right? It's not necessarily about what Wembanyama does, because yes, we understand that he's going to get his. It's about what these other pieces do. Keldon Johnson, Castle, Vassell, Fox. These guys, we have to limit their scoring because they all can get their own bucket whenever they want. So it's just managing to limit those guys, right? Because right here, game 1 of the Spurs bench made the difference, with Castle and Barnes adding the Keldon Johnson 25-point game. We can't have Keldon Johnson have 25 points off the bench. That's just not good. We can't have that happen. While OKC shot 54%, but only 4 players in double figures versus a splashy Spurs team who dropped 130 points on us. Game 2, OKC brought more fight, having 5 players in double figures, but almost managed to have second straight game with everyone in negative plus or minus, but Dub was positive +4. Either way, the Spurs had Fox dropping 29, like I said, in 5 players in double figures, all with 12 or more points with those double figures. Not to mention 4 starters in positive plus or minus for the Spurs. So they just had a fantastic game and really just managed to limit exactly what OKC do. They took OKC's game and implemented on them. And they're really the only other team that can kind of run with us consistently, especially because their bench is starting to score points. OKC also shot a low of 39% on the game and shot 44% from 3. And shot 44 threes, not 44%, shot 44 threes, making only 11. Caruso attempted 12 threes off the bench, making only 2 of them. And the game before, OKC attempted 30 threes and made 12 of them. But we cannot be shooting that many threes, right? I understand you want to go ahead and catch up. We're not a 3-point shooting team. We will take the opportunity to shoot that many threes, obviously, if we are that efficient, but we are not going to night in and night out rely on the 3 ball. We need to continuously go into the paint and kick. Assists is where our money is at. Assists. So continue to pass the ball, rotate the ball, move around. That's what tells me mainly. Obviously, I watched the game, but telling us that we shot 44 threes, the ball wasn't moving a whole lot. So attempted to, like I said, but a 13 to 9 turnover difference mattered in game 1, and in game 2 didn't matter about turnovers. We attempted and missed way too many threes, like I said. So the Thunder would bounce back right after those 2 losses to the Sixers, but either way, the Spurs have our number this year. They absolutely have our number, and like I said, they're a team that can run with us. There's only a couple teams that I think can run with us. They're going to be a problem going forward, and I really hope that we focus on this last matchup going into the later parts of this year. I think it's after the All-Star break when we face them, but really focus on that matchup and what we need to do, because that's our last opportunity to see them before the playoffs. And I think that that's a very good opportunity to see what we need to do and work on. But either way, they have our number, and they're riding their high horse right now, thinking that they can match up with us in the playoffs and beat us. So at the end of the day, we need to pay attention to that, right? We need to pay attention to that, and we're going to obviously mark that on our calendars going forward. But the Thunder would bounce back for the Sixers, 129-104, as the Sixers gave a good fight with Paul George, Maxey, and McCain, Edgecombe, and company, but Chet had a comeback game, having 29-9-1, while Shea also had 27-2-5. Thunder forced 23 turnovers while shooting 57% from the field. I mean, that's what we expect from this team. That's what we expect on a night basis, right? Anything from 45% to 55% is what we want to be in. Next game, the Thunder continued to surge, beating a young, feisty Atlanta team 140-129. Shea 39-6-6, while Holmgren and Dub also had a dub each with 20 points, and Caruso 16 off the bench. Every single starter in positive plus or minus, and a minimum of 14 plus or minus in that Atlanta game. But the Hawks have dogs, guys. They have absolute dogs. Nickeil Alexander-Walker dropped 34-5 versus his cousin's team in Shea, and Okonkwo 26-13-6. Goodness gracious. While Dyson Daniels also had 13 and Krejci had 18. Kennard had 3 threes off the bench and shot 46% from 3. But the Thunder shot 54% from the field and had 9 steals and 7 blocks, even with the Hawks' 11 steals and 25 threes. So just absolutely insane game. There was a ton of scoring going on, and props to the Hawks. They got some absolutely young talent, and I understand why they're in talks with teams right now discussing whether they should keep Trae Young or not. At the end of the day, I think Trae Young is a great talent, and I think that he is going to be wanted by a plethora of other teams, but is it a great fit for the Hawks right now? I don't know, because you see this roster and the way that it's built, it's got a lot of great young talent, and the way that they're moving right now is in the right direction, and I wouldn't want to put, a Trae Young, who is a very ball-dominant guard, who, gets a lot of points, but also misses a lot of shots, is a liability sometimes on defense. I think ultimately he will, like I said, be wanted by a lot of teams, but it's really up to what they want to do, though, what the Hawks want to do. Do they want to move on from Trae Young, who has been such a pivotal piece in their success for various years, in not only just success, but going to the Eastern Conference Finals not too long ago? So you really have to pay attention to that because this isn't the bare this isn't the bottom of the barrel for the Hawks. I think could be a lot worse. You actually got great talent. You actually are in a position where you have so much great talent that you're actually going to trade away Zachary Rashaer, your number one pick right now, because who was the number one over pick last year, who isn't panning out for you. I think that you should still honestly see through with Rashaer because he's still super young, 20 years old, I believe he is. So I don't know about that, but as far as why they're flirting with those types of things, I see why the Hawks are doing that. They got great young talent, like I said, Dyson Daniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker coming over from the Minnesota Timberwolves, now entering a role that's a lot bigger than what he had at the Minnesota Timberwolves, and you're seeing it on display here. Not to mention Okonkwo has been like that for a couple of years, and now Dyson Daniels is coming into the fold as a rookie. So they got a lot of great young talent. So I'm excited to see what this Hawks team can do because it's a wide open East. And lastly, the Thunder beat the Trailblazers to start the new streak of 3 games, but now 4 games since this win tonight versus the Golden State Warriors, 124-95, as Shea had 32 and 5 and 7 players in double figures, with Chet having double-double and OKC shooting 49% from the field and 15 steals and 10 blocks. Chet having 6 of those blocks. If Chet continues to do what he's doing like that, he's just going to continue to progress in the right direction and be an all-star. I think he should be an all-star this year, quite frankly, but we will see, guys. We will see. Forcing Portland to have 24 turnovers in OKC, having every starter in positive 11 plus or minus or more, and every single player is positive plus or minus that game. So just a great game all around against the Portland Trailblazers to cap off the week. Not to mention, not to cap off the week, but to go into the Friday, which today we went ahead and won against the Golden State Warriors. And like I said, it's just been a great progression since those couple of losses that we had against the Spurs. But now it's on to the Suns this Sunday in Phoenix as they take on a feisty Suns team and looking to win their 5th straight game, as it sounds, as the Suns look to win their 6th of their 7th game. So the Suns have been on a great tear as well, just off a win versus the Kings. The Suns look solid, as Book is on a mission right now, dropping 30 a game. So we need to be paying attention, not to mention that they got some good guys coming off the bench, Bouye and all. So we know how they play. We matched up a couple times versus them, but at the end of the day, we need to just continue to play the basketball that we're playing, continue to move in the right direction, and obviously pay homage to the couple losses that we have, right? I think that those are great learning points for us. All of those games were relatively close in the sense that they were very competitive. Now, there was a blowout, obviously, with the Spurs, and I believe it was the first game that we had against them. But then those next 2 games against the Timberwolves and obviously the Spurs and Christmas Day, I mean, those are very competitive games. I think that we're starting to get a little bit better confidence when it comes to the Spurs. I know that we, as a team, I'm saying we, the Thunder, are very frustrated with the fact that they are 0-3 against the Spurs, considering the fact that they know that they're better and reigning defending champs and 21 and the 30-4 record and all that, right? Not wanting to lose those games. I think just focusing on how those games went, on the progression of what we can do to obviously get better with those games, and what specifically in those games did we do lackluster, because I know there wasn't necessarily anything that we didn't do great, but there was a certain dynamics where I feel like we could have been better. I felt like in those games the bench could have played a little bit better. I felt like at times, we needed a little bit more presence from Dub. But that's, obviously going to be coming with the progression of his wrist surgery. So there's a lot to unfold when it comes to their next matchup with the Spurs. I don't want to dive deep into it too much or think too much about it, because ultimately they just have our number right now. We just didn't have, the best basketball. But if they do sweep us this season, that is something to, obviously consider and obviously pay attention to going into the playoffs, because that would be our last time matching up against them. And if they can manage to go ahead and sweep us during the regular season, who knows what they can do in a 4 games or 7 game series versus us. So we need to play better basketball. Now, that being said, it is playoff basketball and it's a completely different atmosphere. And the Spurs haven't been there yet in that type of, dynamic. But they want to, and they're going to be hungry, and I wouldn't doubt that they would be right there at the conference finals at the end of this year, because that's how good this team is. That's how good this team is, guys. But like I said, continue to play the basketball that we are playing and focusing on the things that we are doing, not necessarily focusing on what's so wrong about the things that we didn't do in those games, and focusing on progression. Like I said, J-Dub's wrist, Chet wanting to be an all-star at one point. I think Dub kind of hinted on it tonight in the Amazon Prime post game, was just the fact that everybody has their own kind of personal vendetta, or the personal goal of what they want to do in this season, and because of that, it makes everybody kind of focus in a little more on the details, and also makes it easier because since everybody is focused on their own goal, everybody is so I guess driven to do a lot more better, to make the extra effort, to do the things that they need to do, to be the right teammate, and to make the right move. So it's making it a lot easier. And my point to that is the fact that, yes, we have stumbled against the Spurs, but at the end of the day, focusing each individual, task, I think is going to be, the best thing for this team, and continuing to push forward. And then you lift your head up, and then you see what your record is, and then you see where you're at. And then we can go from there, right? Obviously, get into the dance first, and then get past the All-Star break and be healthy. Those are the top 3 things. But at the end of the day, continuing to progress each and every day, and not necessarily focus on what the schedule or what the record is, or what the Golden State Warriors 73-9 team, right? We're not worried about necessarily records. We're not necessarily worried about going ahead and breaking that record, but putting your best effort forward from the teams. For the team, and just making sure that you're focused on your each and individual task is, I think, going to be the success, or be the culprit of success for this team going forward. Just not managing to get too broad with your perspective, and manage to focus on what you need to do. And I think that this team is doing just that, right? We're about a month now away from the All-Star break, so we'll see where we're at that time. But 30-4, we're sitting pretty right now at the top of the food chain, and we're gonna get everybody's best effort, guys, right? We need to understand that too, and the fact that sometimes we're not gonna play up to par in what we want. I think sometimes you get caught up in the success and the way that you play, the way that the team has been dominating, and then you get worried when the games are close. We can't get stuck in that type of realm where we're so spoiled because of the things that we are seeing. We are spoiled because we see this every night, but now we need to just be very grateful for what is happening, and understanding that we're going to get everybody's best effort, right? We're going to get everybody's best effort, not to mention that we are the defending champs, guys. So don't worry about the record, and let's continue to progress each and every day, and then lift our heads up and see where we're at the end of the season. But that is a wrap on this episode of Thunder Banter, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning into the first episode of 2026. And we'll see you guys next week after this game this Sunday against Phoenix. But Loud City, stand up. We out.